Welcome everyone to today's very important and special Instagram Live at Filipina on the Rise. Today we are going to be getting a heartfelt update from a member of the Lahaina community. Her name is Joanna, and we are so grateful to have her. If you haven't already learned about the Lahaina fires that devastated that island, we all know that this is something that we're still rebuilding, and we have to keep updated and aware about. These were fires that not only really devastated the land, but the community. And there's a lot of questions going on around it, and a lot of people, I think, who just really want to learn about, what caused it, but also how we can help. And I'm going to be inviting a dear, beloved Filipina woman of the community right now with us. Pronounce that right. So we are going to have Joanna joining us right now. Let me see. Awesome. Hi, Joanna.
Hi, aloha. How are you?
Aloha. Doing great. Where
Good.
are you calling in from right now?
I'm calling in from my neighborhood. I live in the, I guess you could call it Leali'i Homestead, which is Hawaiian Homestead, which is a neighborhood that is adjacent to, we're like one of the last neighborhoods standing before the fire. So two homes in our neighborhood burned, and then the rest of the neighborhood adjacent to us, and then the rest of the town. Yeah.
Well, I want to extend a huge, my condolences. And we're so sorry that all has happened. I feel like there is grieving and mourning that has to go with this, along with the action and the rebuilding, remembering that this is also a mourning and grieving period. So extending, our condolences and prayers to you. And thank you so much for joining us. I'm going to read really quick what we have introducing Joanna. She's a beloved member and voice in the Lahaina community. She has called Lahaina home for 34 years, and she's the co-owner of Hang Loose Surf Club and a mother. And I'm absolutely honored that we can have you here. It's so crucial that we're staying up to date, updated on what's happening there on the ground, that this doesn't just become another news headline that we see for that week and moving on to the next. This is actual communities and homes and families that are deeply affected and devastated, and it could be easy to kind of disassociate or feel disconnected from that. But again, I had mentioned that over a third of the community, I believe, is Filipino. Not that that should, prompt us more or less to action, but being a platform that promotes and wants to bring awareness to Filipino community and culture, I think that it feels like there is more of that direct through line to that. And I can go into so many different questions around this, but it's really about giving the community a voice again, giving someone on the ground the opportunity to say, hey, this is what our community is about. This is where we're at. This is what's happened. And to really humanize what's happened here, and to really learn about what's so special and unique about this community that I'm really excited to have you share with us. And so I'm just gonna give the mic to you and let you introduce yourself a little bit more, and maybe what happened when where were you at. You don't have to go in detail about it, but during that time, and really give us a pulse on where the community is now. And I'd really love for you to share anything you'd want us to know about this special Lahaina town community.
Yes, absolutely. So, again, I lived in Lahaina pretty much my whole entire life, raising my family here in Lahaina as well. And we're just such a tight knit community. It's so diverse. Yes, there are a lot of Filipinos, but there are also Mexicans, Japanese, Chinese, Tongans, Samoans. Lahaina is so diverse, and which is what makes it so unique as well. You know, like everybody embraces each other's cultures. Everyone just cares and loves for each other, which is what makes it so special. And because of this and this devastation, everybody is affected, whether you live, because Lahaina is the beginning of West Maui, and then there's also other towns that go further and further as you go north. So but Lahaina is like the heart of the west side. So but if you live anywhere on the West Maui, you were affected somehow, some way from this fire. So my mom and dad's house was affected by the fire. Oops, sorry. And they live in the beginning of Lahaina. Our surf school was also taken by the fire, and that's, if you know where the banyan tree is on Front Street, it was right across the street from there, along with everything from there and in between. You know, it's just so sad. But yeah, so
Yeah.
Lahaina is just a small community, and you can tell when people are from Lahaina. They always say, oh, it's a Lahaina thing, it's a Lahaina thing, oh, it must be a Lahaina thing. But it really is, like, we just are such a tight community, and always giving and always caring for every to everybody. It's just,
Yeah.
heartbreaking. I just can't even. Yeah.
And from what I understand, Lahaina used to be the capital, right? Like, any other information for those who don't really know
Right.
much about
Correct.
this actual
Yes.
place in context of Hawaii?
Yes, it was the capital from like the 15th century all the way to like the mid 1800s. It was the capital. The royalty, the ali'i, lived in Lahaina town, you know. And then after, towards the late 1800s, that's when the plantation kind of took over, and the Western businessmen they took over Hawaii, and they started planting sugarcane and stuff. And that's how my family came to Hawaii, was in the early 1900s. My great grandpa came to work in the plantation, and then my grandma wanted to come to Hawaii and be with her dad, so he petitioned for her to come. And by the time she was able to come from the Philippines, my mom was 13 years old. So, and she is the sixth child of 8 children. So by the time she was 13, that's when she could come to Hawaii, and that's how my family came here.
Yeah, I'm imagining that migration story is pretty common also with the other Filipino community.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you for sharing that. So there's a lot of questions and different narratives and explanations going on with regards to how this fire started. I'm not expecting you to be the expert at all to report on that, but what is your understanding of what happened here, and what you'd want people to just really know from the like center of the community to the outside world?
Yeah. So I know there was a fire earlier that morning. I was on a red-eye flight back from Las Vegas to Maui, and when I landed, I spoke to my mom, who had my daughter, and they were like, "Oh, is there school? The power's been out. We don't know how long. The winds are very strong. Shingles are flying off the roof." And this was already at 6 a.m. So, so there was a fire around that time, and then they ended up putting that fire out. It was contained. And then the winds just continued, and power lines just kept falling everywhere. And one of the power lines got hold of the dry grass in one of the areas, and that sparked the fire. And then with the heavy winds, the embers kept flying everywhere and just kept continuing to burn. And but when I evacuated my house around 7 o'clock, there was no water. So I can't even imagine, and that's a sink faucet. Like, there was no water for the firefighters to fight the fires that were going on, you know. So there is a lot of facts. I want to say some, I don't know what are facts and whatever, but the water.
Yeah.
You know, because 25% of the water is owned by the county, 75% of the water here on Maui is owned by private entities. So, you know,
wow.
So could you imagine? Yeah. and that dated back to the plantation days when they took the water and then they never gave it back, or they never shared or anything like that. And it's a continuous fight on Maui, you know, water diversion and all of that stuff. So
Man.
and helicopters couldn't fly because of the heavy winds, so they couldn't get water from the ocean to help put out the fires.
Wow.
So it was like a home or a life, you know, that the first responders had to try to save.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm so sorry that it's like, I always think about how, while there is the natural disaster part of it, it makes me so frustrated to know that there is some kind of always like corporate irresponsibility, or, you know, like diversion or some kind of red tape that had happened to keep it from being helped. And that, again, this is it's still a human issue, but I want to know, is there things that we should know on the other side that we can, like, that the community is hoping to hold people accountable to?
Yes, we're so grateful that there are like organizations that are going to continue to fight for that, as they were prior to this fire, you
Mm-hmm.
know. But every odd was against us during this time. You know, there was literally a battle that could not have been won,
Wow.
because everything was already dry, because usually it is around the drier times during this time. And they always put water restrictions, so people can't water their lawns, so people had dry lawns, so
Yeah.
that doesn't help at all. And I just can't keep
So,
thinking. I try to not.
wow. So what? Yeah. Yeah. Water diversion. Okay, that's really
Mm-hmm.
interesting to know about. And
Right.
I want.
And there's a lot of like there's a lot of, why didn't they sound off the sirens, and
Yes.
because the
Yes.
sirens are for tsunamis.
Mm-hmm.
And but I feel like sirens would have had people come out of their homes. That's my
Mm-hmm.
opinion. A lot
Mm-hmm.
of people have other opinions about that, but I feel like people would have came out of their homes to see, oh, what was happening.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people were in their homes because it's like, oh, if something's happening outside, you shelter in place, you know, that's
Yeah.
what's going to keep you safe. And so that's what a lot of people did. And then when people were knocking on people's doors to like tell them to come out and leave, and people were trying to evacuate neighborhoods that have narrow roads, you know what I mean? Like some roads, fire trucks can't even get in. They're so narrow.
Wow.
And they're trying to evacuate, and embers are flying everywhere. Cars are exploding.
God.
And then, so they had to get out and run.
Yeah.
And embers are still flying,
Yeah.
you know, and they're trying to protect their children. They're getting stuck in traffic. Flames are coming from all angles. It was a nightmare. Plus fire lines were down. I mean,
Right.
electric poles were down, so they couldn't
Right.
go anywhere.
Right. Right. Oh my gosh, that's so devastating. And not to have you walk us through that time, which I'm sure like is so traumatic for so many, for a lot of people, regardless if you were there or not. Like if you're part of that island, that must have been, it's such a traumatic, experience. But what was the overall feeling, even for you, knowing that this was happening, and for the community at large, who are so connected to the land? It's
Mm-hmm.
not just like that, there's land and there's us. I feel like there is that really strong relationship and connection and reverence, right, to that. So I'm asking this question to really like rehumanize what has happened here and have us feel that heart connection as well.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
Yeah, the question was, what was everyone really going through, emotions wise and feelings wise, even for you as you were finding out that this was happening, throughout the time? Yeah.
Honestly, and while this was happening, nobody really well, at least in our neighborhood, nobody really knew what was happening. We could see really thick black smoke, and we could hear explosions, but nobody really knew what was happening because we didn't have cell phone service, you know? So all we knew was everyone was evacuating, the power lines were down, there was no power. My neighbors were the ones that told me, oh, we're leaving, they're evacuating this neighborhood, we're leaving, like,
Yeah.
let's go. So I'm like, okay, so that's why we all continue to leave. And then it wasn't until about like 4 o'clock that next morning when I finally saw, I got a little bit of phone service and I could see like social media and see what was actually happening. And then my phone was like, where are you? Are you okay? Like, what's happening in Lahaina? And no one knew, you know, unless you actually saw it and got out of it and then got out to safety. We didn't really know.
Yeah.
Well, at least I didn't until
Right.
the next morning.
Right. So can you give us an update right now on the Lahaina community, where they're at, what's going on right now, and what do you think the community would want the outside world to know?
I feel like what's happening right now is that we already had a shortage of homes, like housing. You know, there was already nowhere for anyone to live. People were constantly looking for places to live. So now this makes it even harder. It's already a struggle to want to stay and live in your hometown because it's so expensive. Prices for homes like skyrocketed. So that's a big issue right now. And I know a lot of people are being housed in like the hotels and in condos. So that's nice, but that's not long term. You know what I mean? So I feel like what's really nice is that there are a lot of volunteers right now, you know, running the hubs, volunteering their time, making sure our community has everything that we need so that we can cope and grieve. Because there's just so much trauma right now. Like everyone's story of that day is different and horrific. Like I I look at a photo and almost all my friends lost their homes. You know what I mean? It's insane. And you think of one person and then another person and another person. There was 18 there's 18 firefighters in Lahaina that were fighting the fire. 17 of them lost their home. And then police officers were working that night directing traffic, lost their homes. You know, so it's just crazy. So I think I would like the outside people outside of our community to know that like we're grateful for all the help, but we also need to grieve, you know what I mean, and deal with all that. So I know people are like, well, you know, like yes, Maui is open, but Lahaina is closed. Like just show some respect. Like it's only been 2 weeks.
Right. Yeah.
You know, it's been 2 weeks and they 850 more people are unaccounted for, you know. So yeah, you know, I know everyone's eager to try to get back into a normal routine and all of this stuff, but just give us some time. Eventually Lahaina will open up, you know.
I can't
safe,
even believe
you
that people
know.
are expecting Lahaina to open up, like that there is even that expectation or pressure. Like
Yeah,
there needs to be some a very dedicated grieve and loss and mourning period just to give that space. Like you said, it's been only 2 weeks, and even if it hasn't, like, oh my gosh, like, are we really expecting things to
yeah,
like the
yeah.
people need to heal and like
Mm-hmm.
heal as a
And
collective,
it's going to
I
be
think,
a
right?
long haul for
Yeah.
that, for sure. um
Yeah. Yeah.
um yeah, I feel like that's the main thing, and we're super grateful that it took about 3 or 4 days for actual government presence to come and help us. So I do want to shine light on like the outside community. You know what I mean? People went on boats to bring us supplies. You know, there's a lot of hubs and they're run by the community. They're not run by FEMA or Red Cross. They're run by actual
Wow.
community members
Right.
that that just jumped into action, knew
Right.
exactly what everyone needed. I think a lot of it too was because we kind of, on a very, very much smaller scale, and I'm not disregarding it, we did go through it in 2018, you know, where there was a really large fire, about 22 homes were taken. And I think everyone kind of learned from that and knew what everyone needed if the power goes out. So there was like ice, generators,
Yeah.
gas, all those
Yeah.
things, you know. So everyone jumped on it, and so
Everyone
now we
should.
have an abundance of supplies,
Wow.
you know. So
That's so good. That's good to hear. I mean, from what I've seen, it's pretty common when I look at, let's say, like the Philippine natural disasters, that it's the community that pulls through together. And
mm-hmm.
that should, one, of course, make, you know, that a feeling of pride of that collective effort, but also it's like, where's the actual help from the government that has the
Mm-hmm.
resources and infrastructure, and always putting the onus right on the community to be resilient and to build. And so someone commented here like 2 to 3 days later for like why did it take so long? And I'm sure that there's like a laundry list of explanations for that, but that's just.
Oh, it was, everything went into action when we knew the president was coming, everything was so quick for that. And I know I don't know. Like they could have got here sooner, but it's okay because our community has got each other, and that's how it's going to be. And I guarantee you how it's going to be for
Right.
the next 2 to 5, 10 years. When we start to rebuild, our community is going to have each other, and that's why I'm so proud to be from Lahaina,
Yes.
and we're also a giving community. You know what I mean? We give, we help everybody, and so for everyone to have their Venmos out like that and need help, that's a lot of pride put aside, you know, to your house burnt down, your job burnt down, your kids can't go to school, you don't have a car, all these things. And then now we need help, and we're so grateful for strangers. And I'm sure I can speak for everybody when I say that strangers, people you've never met before, are donating to help us get back on our feet, because once the Red Cross and all that run out, we're going to have to pay rent again. And where? Like right now, right now in the last 3-day testing, it's fine, but the air quality can go up and down. Our water is contaminated right now, but it's not really covered in our insurance. So if we wanted to leave to go somewhere where it's safer, we would have to pay our mortgage and pay for rent, where it's like $3,200 for a 2-bedroom. Loss of income, like it's a
Yeah.
there's just so many factors that go into play. On top of that, like for my parents, they were retired, right? So like nobody would want their parents to go through this during retirement, like you're supposed to enjoy retirement, and now the thought of rebuilding. And I'm almost positive everyone that lived in Lahaina, they
Yeah.
didn't build their home from scratch, like, and now they're going to have to file for insurance, build their home from scratch. Like it can get overwhelming. So I know people are going to want to leave and go buy a house like in Las Vegas where it's already built and they just have to move in. Like, and then we have to go through the building process.
Yeah.
I could go on
I
and
know, I
on and
know.
on and on. And
Speaking of
it's crazy.
yeah, speaking of rebuilding, what is the rebuilding process looking like right now? And how long do you think it's gonna, that's even such a hard question to answer. Like, how long do you think it's gonna take for it to get back to a semblance of a town again? But it's like
Um,
there's so much rebuilding,
I
right, that needs to
I
happen.
I hope that it. I hope that. How do I say this? As much as we want it to move because we want people to go back on their land, you know what I mean? I feel like those portions of people's homes, yes, like we could probably move just a little bit quicker than I would hope for, so people can get back home and start that process. But I feel like the town and other areas that were not owned by like personal property, personal like foundations and stuff like that. I hope that they really take the community's voice into consideration and not just do whatever they want, because on Front Street where the main town is, there was buildings falling into the ocean. You know what I mean? So, and there was a lot of like abandoned buildings and stuff. So I really hope that they take the the community's like input into consideration when rebuilding, and maybe setting the town back up higher, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
Away from the
yeah,
ocean, you know what I mean? Build have shrub grow for erosion, stuff like that.
yeah.
So
So I guess that goes to one of my last questions, is that at least for me, my heart is for advocacy for the people, and really like concerned about this exploitation that could happen. Not that I'm assuming that's happening right now, but where the people's voices aren't taken into account with decision making, and all these rumors happening about, you know, like, of it, is this a big land grab now? Is there, what's going to happen to town after this? And so what are efforts around incorporating and honoring the voices of the residents and the native people there in the rebuilding and decision making, and even like any protection against those who might be exploiting this moment?
Yes. So I did, hear in Governor Josh Green's speeches and in President Biden's speeches that they're going to protect Lahaina, and that it's going to be rebuilt for the people of the community and all of that stuff. But I mean, are they really going to protect us? You know what I mean? And it would then, and they're saying also that there's going to be penalties if you try to buy land from locals, or try to be sneaky and take land from locals. So I really hope that they do that, but at the end of the day, it's going to be the community that has to support each other and uplift each other, and stay positive, because it is going to be such a long process.
Yeah.
I already see people posting like that they have to move, families that didn't own property, but they've lived here their whole life, because it's really expensive to buy a house here, so there was a lot of affordable house. There was 1, 2, 3, 4, I think there was about 5 affordable housing complexes that housed hundreds of families. Now where do they go? So hundreds of families that have been here for forever. And so yes, everyone's going to be able to get back on their land and rebuild, but what about the ones that were renting too?
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, I hope that part of the building plan is that they're going to build those complexes back up and put those people back in there too, and make that a priority. Because it's so sad, just when you walk in, when you're on the other side of the island and you're walking in Target, and like you just see like people from Lahaina buying things that they need, which comes to another point. I know you didn't ask this, but I just kind of wanted to put it out there. It's like a lot of people are doing like drives and clothing drives and stuff like that. It's like these people in Lahaina, they're houseless. You know what I mean? They weren't homeless. So to give just crap that you just pulled out, and just like think that, oh, they need, they don't have nothing, they can just, like beggars can't be choosers kind of mentality. That's kind of not a good intention to have when giving to our community, because we're grateful, don't get me wrong, but there was just make sure if you're going to donate something that there's an actual person that's going to receive it.
Right.
Because on top of that, now people are now it's littering.
Yeah.
We're littering in our town, and then people are staying in these temporary places and having to haul these things around, and then that can get overwhelming as well.
Right.
So so just also give with intention, and
it's not just, it doesn't just stop at the drives, right? That we have to be realistic, that people lost their homes, that there is funding needed to rebuild and to heal here. And I think that often we can feel like we did a good job when we like are supporting like a drive or donated stuff, but this also, like, you're right, that there gets to a point where there's excessive stuff, and then the littering on the island happens, and that's not actually where most of the help is needed. So if we're going to help, at least let's be realistic about where that should be directed to. And I really do believe in people's, best intentions and wanting to do that, but often, like, let's lean in a little closer and see where there's actual the investment of support and aid should be directed to. So that's gonna lead to my last question about, I hear you saying this, the community knows how to rebuild together and help itself, and there's this true pride and celebration in that. But at the same time, let's not, feel that we're outside of our reach here on wherever we can help from. And what are the best few ways that someone listening, someone who doesn't live over there and wants to help can take some next actionable steps, whether that's looking at the where support could be directed to. I know a lot of people question like reliability about some of these the aids and the organizations. So I have on my bio link a Google Sheets of actual families who are accepting, you know, donations. And I feel like that's a really good way of supporting, to just go direct to the person, the human, the family in need. What are ways you would want to promote that people can help?
Yeah, so some community members, they put together an Instagram page, which is Lahaina underscore Ohana underscore Venmo. And all the posts on there have been vetted, and they know we know these people personally, you know what I mean? And their Venmos have been vetted, and it has a little description of their story and a photo of their family. Pick a family, adopt a family, pick 10 families, give $10, $5. I don't know. Just, I think the most beneficial way to support our community right now is to donate directly to people's Venmo accounts. And if you can't do it now, trust me, your $10 in 2 months is going to make a huge difference, you know, because that $700 from the United States, I mean, that's like one grocery run at Costco and a tank of gas. You know, that's barely even cover
is that what he promised?
Yeah, that's what he promised.
That's like a slap in the face. I'm sorry.
It's a slap in the face. Like, you can't even rent a room in somebody's house for $700. You know, so yeah, so I would say to donate. And then if you don't feel comfortable, you know, some people have their reservations of donating directly to somebody's Venmo. You can donate to people that I know that are helping families directly. There is Maui United Way, Maui Economic Opportunity, also known as MEO, that you can donate to them directly, because I know that they are already dispersing money to help families. I know MEO has put families in homes for 6 to 12 months already. So that's huge, you know, for people to figure out what the future looks like, you know. And I think we're already in pretty much September, and I think as the year goes on, it's going to get even harder during the holidays, you know, because like anywhere else, family gatherings and stuff, I know we will get through it, you know. And so there's MFD underscore Lahaina underscore Ohana is a good one for firefighters who lost their homes. So if you want to donate there too, but I think the main thing is that, you know, just do everything with aloha, you know. Like, if you're gonna give to our community in whatever way that looks for you, just give with aloha. Don't do it like, oh, we did this for you, now you got to do this. Don't do any of that, you know what I mean? Don't project any of your negativity onto us, because we don't need that. We need to keep our mental strength for the long haul. And it's already a struggle to live here, so we will invite people to come back to Lahaina and spend their money eventually, but just right now, just give our community some space to just like grieve. You know, Maui is open, you know, you can visit other towns on Maui, because they need to survive too, but Lahaina is closed. Yes.
And I want to really emphasize that, just giving the community the time, the reverence, right, the respect of mourning and grieving, and giving with what you
and the fact that we have to say that out loud is insane, you know. Like,
I'm so sorry.
Like, come on, people, like, be a decent human being and just have compassion.
Absolutely. And I want to put it on everyone to just like, however it is that you can support and give. There's so many different ways, like whatever's on your heart, everything helps. Whether it's you feel like it's on this category, or to these families, or to the firefighters, you know, really check in with your own heart.
And if you can't help, share it. The
Exactly.
social networking
Exactly.
is insane. share
I
a
was going to
post,
say,
keep
yeah,
sharing the Venmo post, pick a family, share it,
pick a
share
family.
our stories. And, you know, the farther it can get to, the better, because you may not have the means today, but somebody following you does,
Exactly.
you know?
Exactly. Yes, exactly. And to spread the resources, the right resources around. When I read through the sheets, the Google sheets that's on my link of the families and their stories and their direct heartfelt messages to us, that, you know, that says everything. This is a human experience, and that we, if I can give what I can for that direct family, I'm not even questioning like, oh, is this going to go to the no, like, we're helping out a family who literally lost their livelihood at home. So like, I think that is, you know, and that's something that we can all do in one way or another. So thank you so much. And I know that, you know, even for yourself, you're going through a time of loss, in a way of grieving, Joanna. And so I'm really grateful that you come here and being able to speak up for your community on behalf of like Lahaina. Thank you so much. Is there any last messages or things that you want to say?
Yeah, I just want to thank everybody that has donated to all the families in Lahaina, you know, from all over the place. I also want to thank the first responders that worked so tirelessly that night, that they tried their best, you know, and we're going to have to show them so much aloha too. And I also want to thank all the organizations on the ground, you know, that are doing everything they can to protect our town, to keep Lahaina and
Mm-hmm.
keep our locals here, you know. So yeah, just keep sharing, keep spreading awareness of what happened, and that's pretty much it. Just show
Yes.
aloha to all of our families that are
Mm.
suffering right now.
Give with aloha,
Mm-hmm.
and really, we share in the grief and in the mourning and the loss with you. Our condolences. Thank you so much, Joanna. After this, everyone, if you're watching, I really encourage you to click on the Lahaina Ohana Venmo and just read through the stories. Your heart will be moved. I promise you, whatever you give will go a long way. So thank you, Joanna. We're with you. Our prayers are with you all, and our giving too. Thank you.
Thank
Hope
you.
everybody.
Have
Thank you. Bye bye.
a great day. Aloha.
Aloha too. Bye bye.